I thought it was kind of cool. But the game gets freaking hard. They just throw everything in the moon at you, and I have a feeling it's one of those cases where, this is a small indie developer. Sometimes they'll make a game and they won't have it. Maybe like a handful of people play testing it, and so they think the difficulty is fine. But in actuality, it's really tough for the average Joe, and especially someone of my limited skill set. I love shoot 'em ups. This is right up my alley, but it gets fucking hard. I mean, honest to God, it's like by the fourth or fifth level, I was just dying like 30 times in a row or something. But it's a charming game. I love the 2D graphics. Yeah, I mean, let's see, what else is there to talk about? I did a feature on Vortex for the Super NES. Not a whole lot more to talk about.
A flashback feature on 1985 FM. I do encourage everyone to go check it out. Please do fucking check it out.
Please, yes. We don't write that for our own entertainment, although it is fun. But this is for everybody. Everybody should read it, especially if you're interested in Super Nintendo games that use this Super FX chip. I mean. Honestly, oh wow, Brian got footage already. He's awesome.
He's on top of it, man.
It's that's pretty crazy. But I mean, that makes the frame rate look so much better than it actually is. I don't know how that's. I think it's like motion blur or something. But
right.
I call it movie magic.
What is there to say about that game? It is just so ambitious and yet so technically under-equipped for delivering on its promises. I mean, it's trying to be kind of this game where you have like 3 different modes that transform into a jet, a robot, and a car. In this flying level in particular, you don't get the option for a car because you're in space. And you have one other mode, which is the shield mode, which you literally just turn into a box and can't move. So that's awesome, I guess.
Oh, that's forward thinking.
The controls,
box mode.
The controls are so complicated. It is convoluted as hell. But it's just, I'm just so utterly fascinated by it. Somebody that read the flashback told me I was way too kind on the game, and honestly, I think it's just due to just being kind of just enamored, if you will, by the attempt at the technology to do things that it probably shouldn't, but damn if they don't try. So moving on, I mean, going back to the Vita, because somebody has to talk about the Vita.
Right.
There is a game, Urban Trials Freestyle, which is a motorcycle game. There are other games like it. It's kind of a clone of some others that are kind of where you are driving a motorcycle and it's almost like a 2D perspective, going over obstacles and just these over-the-top, elaborate-looking tracks and environments. And my closest experience with that looks painful. My closest experience with something similar is like Excite Bikes. This is kind of new for me, but it is kind of an interesting comparison because in Excite Bike and that's so the wipeouts are so painful looking. It's
To me it looks like it's Trials, man. It's Trials HD.
It's Trials HD.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's they have no scruples about ripping off. But yeah. I mean, it's watch it be the same company, but it's you have to adjust the angle of the landing and how you jump and how much gas you apply. The graphics are actually they look, that's probably the PlayStation 3 version, but it actually looks almost identical on the Vita. So I love games that look just as good as console games on the Vita, and this is kind of a showcase. It's a very inexpensive game. They got a demo right now.
Anything that validates that purchase of the PS Vita?
Absolutely. This is, guys, if you are still on the bench about the Vita, Urban Trials Freestyle.
The brave few.
Yeah, the brave few, you and the three other people that own a Vita. Don't worry, guys. This game looks as good as it does
You
on the
know what? I
PS3.
think I sold at least three more.
Fuck, that'd be 100% increase.
Oh, poor Vita. All right, well, Randy, what the hell have you been playing?
All right. Well, everyone else has been playing their indie, obscure games, retro games. I'm playing the Britney Spears, Justin Bieber of games. I'm playing the two big releases from last week. I'm playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance and Crysis 3.
That's the
Um,
game starring that chick, right?
oh, you're talking about Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance? Oh, dude, this. Let me just before we get started. I know a lot of people are getting excited about Tomb Raider, Revision of Lara Croft. Don't even bother waiting for that game because this chick in here, she's pretty freaking hot. I'm just gonna say it straight up. This chick is hot.
And she had no
What?
glass
Oh
jaw
no,
on
actually, I
her.
take that back. She's not a woman. That's
What?
actually a man. That's actually a man.
Oh no, you gotta be kidding me. I printed out posters and everything.
So, but seriously, we're get down to. I went through the game, beat it, did a good majority of the VR missions, played through it a second time just to see how it fared on the second run. It's a fun game. I really had a good time. The fighting mechanic is.
I heard you wrote a review, is that right?
I did write a review. You can find it on the site. The site review is very unbiased. I do weigh my enjoyment of the game against the fact that it is a very, very flawed game.
You seem to go back and forth quite a bit on the pros and
It's
cons.
it's a tough one to really. I've reviewed a lot of games for the site that I downright hate, and I've reviewed a lot of games that I seriously enjoy. This game is probably one of the tougher reviews I've wrote for the site, just because I do enjoy the fundamental part of what that game is, but everything surrounding it is so flawed and unnecessary that yeah, you can get the game and you'll enjoy it, but at the end of the day, is that enough to like validate a purchase? I don't. I
I
probably
wonder,
don't
like,
think so.
do you think this may be like a symptom of Platinum Games trying to take on? I mean, obviously this gameplay is right up their alley, but maybe they're trying to take on too much in terms of story that they haven't done in previous games. I mean, you think maybe they're just
That's
not?
definitely a possibility. I mean, I think that is like the crux of the game is that they try to adopt so many of the tropes of what Metal Gear is. If they had just done what Platinum Games does well and just went for an all-out action game without having to do all the Metal Gear, like we looked at that trailer, and that trailer took 10 minutes just to get started into any gameplay. Like this game like succeeds on just being fast and in your face constantly, and those cutscenes that are very popular in Metal Gear games just do so much of a disservice to what Platinum Games did really well in this game. I think if they would have made a Platinum Games game rather than a hybrid of what Platinum Games and Kojima Productions does, they would have actually come out with a lot better game.
Yeah, I mean, I do admit I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. I do understand why they might have tried to unsuccessfully go with a hybrid approach because if they went maybe too much into the mindless action and it would have been a better game. But then why does it have the Metal Gear name? Maybe that's the fundamental problem. Maybe it shouldn't have been a Metal Gear game. But when it comes down to it, if they had tried to do pure action, no story, maybe it would have felt a little off. Or maybe too out of place for a Metal Gear game, or
I mean, that's very possible. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy the game because I had a really, really good time with the game. Me and my friends sat down, we played this, and like even the bad stuff, like the laughable dialogue and the ridiculous cutscenes, were kind of like a point where we all just kind of laughed at how ridiculous the game was and still enjoyed it. It's still a fun game, but at the end of the day, even as fun as it is very short, and you can beat it in easily 6 hours. And then at the repeat playthrough, it's well under 2 hours once you've realized just how like linear everything is. So
I was watching a really interesting video that Adam Sessler did on Rev3 Games. If you not subscribed to Rev3 Games, do it now because that's where Adam is, and he gets so much more opportunities to speak his mind than he ever had before. And that is nothing but a good thing for gaming journalism in general. And every time the guy opens his mouth, he kind of blows my mind a little bit. and he was talking about Metal Gear Rising and game length in general. We talked about game length on our side as well. We did a group topic on it, and he talked about game length as being not just in terms of story, because you have a satisfying story arc and you can have that within just a few hours. That's not the problem. He talked about a concept of a satisfying game arc, where you have, in terms of gameplay, you're kind of building up this the skill set and learning the ropes, and then going through the trials, and it was very interesting how he kind of articulated that some games, just in terms of gameplay, not in terms of story, but just there it is now. If only you could get audio. He just laid a very interesting point out, and I think it definitely applies. Sometimes, just in terms of gameplay, a game is just not long enough.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like narrative arc and gameplay arc, that was something that really bothered me with, say, Max Payne, the most recent Max Payne game, is that narrative arcs, I think Ninja Theory does them especially well in short games. Like, I do think Heavenly Sword was a very short game, but the narrative arc was perfect. But as far as games like Max Payne that are also very short, like the gameplay arc never happens. There's never any escalation in between what you learn. I think like a game like Portal does it fantastically well, where they take all these things and they slowly escalate you learning them and then adapting them to the whole entirety of the game. Max Payne never had that kind of thing, where you were just basically playing the same game from the beginning as you were to the end. You were just doing it in different environments. And I kind of imagine that's probably, I haven't seen the video, but I imagine that's kind of what he's talking about. The narrative and the overall like wrapping up of gameplay and making you feel like you've kind of accomplished like some kind of gameplay conclusion.
Basically, that's exactly it. I mean, just in terms of just having that satisfaction of learning the skill set, mastering the skill set, and then using that skill set in a satisfying end conclusion where it's just balls to the walls, putting you at the edge of your seat or up against a wall, and then persevering and getting through it, and having that gameplay climax at the end is just as much a part of the game length as the story and anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was probably my biggest problem with Max Payne 3 was the gameplay just didn't have any confidence in it. It didn't give you that, the skill set along the way or whatever. Like, they were just really insecure about it because it was essentially just a shooter with slow motion in between. Right. And I thought that was kind of a poor choice for them to just, be like, hey, but look how immersive it is. It's like a cutscene now.
Yeah,
and
right.
So it's like, well, that's cool and all. You didn't use a pre-rendered... Well, you did use pre-rendered cutscenes, but they were in-game engine stuff. But it's like, after that, the climax felt like the rest of the game. I didn't have to play through it. I didn't feel I had to play through it. It was just there. I thought it was, for the most part, like the voice acting and everything, like everything about the game's very immersive.
The presentation's
really
nice.
Really good, but the the one-to-one, like the story related to what's actually happening in the game is very, like, okay, man, I really need to redeem myself. Oh, let me clear this room of 1,000 guys now. This, like, so
it's like the way, like, you kind of like, I kind of equate Max Payne 3 to like a Die Hard movie.
Right.
And even like in a Die Hard movie, there's that slow like escalation to like the point where, oh shit, everything is like gone batshit insane, and like this is like the shit that's going down. There's never that point in Max Payne from
exactly
like scene
I was
one.
Just gonna say, I'm like, I hope he's not about to say, definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely.
He's jumping out of the Nakatomi Plaza at the very beginning of the game, and he's just kicking ass like from here on out, and it never has that gameplay pacing that builds up to anything.
I wonder what shooters have to do in order to do that. Do they all have to like? Is there no place for like a mindless shooter where it's
I've
just kind of the same action all throughout? Do they all have to be
No,
RPG
I think there's a
elements, or-
place for a mindless shooter, but I think with as sophisticated as players have become, there is definitely more room